Hello everyone, I'm Tommy with Studio Sense. One of the most exciting things about getting into men's fragrance is finding a really good fragrance at a really good price and then discovering that it's been discontinued. Now this doesn't happen necessarily in that chronological order. Normally we find out, oh, the fragrance that you like has been discontinued already and the price has shot up quite a bit. But it's often a little bit confusing as to where to start when it comes to discontinued fragrances. So when we return, I'm going to show you 6 super solid discontinued fragrances, talk about those and more, so stay tuned. Welcome back, guys. So yes, the topic of discontinued fragrances is one that causes some confusion for many, because first of all, it's something that you have to wait to find out, and normally there's a process. What will typically happen with a manufacturer or house is that for whatever reason, and there's a myriad of different reasons, they decide to discontinue a fragrance. But often what will happen is that fragrance will become very hard to find. And it will be very hard to find for a long time. And then suddenly there's an announcement, it's been discontinued. It's not necessarily announced, but it's almost like a byline they put in, and you'll find out maybe like on Parfumo.net or Base Notes or Fragrantica or someplace like that, you'll discover a small byline saying, hey, this fragrance has been discontinued. So normally that's how it happens. There's one in this list that's not been announced or discovered as discontinued, but I have a really strong intuition or feeling that it has been discontinued, and we'll get to that later. So you can kind of tell once you figure out how the perfume industry kind of waxes and wanes and what the trends, kind of follow the trends, you can kind of figure out which fragrances are close to being discontinued. So enough of that. Let's go ahead and take a look at the 6 fragrances that I have today to present to you as being ones that are desirable to have, to own, yet are discontinued. The first fragrance came out in 2004 by designer Nikos Apostolopoulos, and that's a mouthful, and it is actually called self-titled Nikos For Men. And it's a pretty cool design, so I do really like that presentation. You can't miss it. So if you see this fragrance that looks like maybe a shard or one side of an arrowhead. Now there is a Nikos Homme that's still in the same presentation. It's clear, however, and it's still in production. You can get that for relatively inexpensively on fragrance.net or fragrancebuy.ca. I think it's like 16, 17 bucks, something like that. It's on clearance right now, I think, on fragrance.net, so that might be indicating future. A lot of fragrances will go on clearance because they'll have a mass production of them before they get discontinued. That's another sign that you'll see. But anyway, this fragrance here, a lot of people will compare it to Versace Man. It is a coffee-based fragrance, but this is of much higher quality than Versace Man is. In the top, you've got cardamom, lemon, citrus notes, featuring a heart of jasmine, coffee, and musk, resting on a base of sandalwood, oak moss, tonka bean, vanilla, and cedar. Again, you'll read where people say it's just like Versace Man. It is not. It is a coffee-based fragrance. That's really the only thing that they have in common. This is much richer. It is much longer lasting. So the performance in this is really long lasting. When you first spray it on, it's slightly synthetic, but then you've got that jasmine, the amber, the musk, and the coffee working together. That's what really pulls it, the mid and the base. In the dry down is where this really, really shines. It's perfect for cooler weather, fall going into winter, or spring. Anytime the weather's cooler, you can even, I'm actually wearing this right now, and it's relatively cool inside. High heat, I wouldn't necessarily wear this. It only has a little bit of sweetness to it, so that's what I like about it. It's not effusively sweet, where I would consider Versace Man being a little bit sweeter than this, and again, that bumps up the quality quite a bit in my book. So check it out, Nikos For Men discontinued fragrance, excellent coffee-based fragrance. This next fragrance I featured in a kitschy video last Halloween, and it is actually still available. In fact, there's quite a glut of them out there on the market right now, so I highly recommend to grab it up while you can, but it has been discontinued. It came out in 2005. It is a Calvin Klein fragrance, and it is Obsession Night for Men. This is a fragrance that kind of sneaks up on you. When you first smell it, it's slightly synthetic, but it's got a really nice, bold body to it. Again, as I mentioned with Nikos, it's the same with this one. In the dry down is really where this shines. It kind of gives you that feeling of, that vibe of slightly mysterious, sexy, but very also very tranquil. Something very tranquil about this is probably the dual combination of pear and cardamom that's in the top. You've got black suede in the mid. I think you've got vetiver, patchouli, and vanilla is the base that it's resting on. The performance is really good on this for a date night fragrance, very sensual, very warm. One person commented in a forum, I thought it was pretty poetic. They said it was like an invisible smile in the night, which is a pretty neat way of, a poetic way of describing a fragrance. Again, it's been discontinued. I did leave a link in the description below if you want to pick yourself up a bottle relatively inexpensively. The next fragrance that I'm going to feature, which has been discontinued, came out not that long ago. It is 2017, followed closely on the heels of Mercedes-Benz Club, that is Mercedes-Benz Club Black. This is what's been called the Vanilla Bomb, and it is a very effusively vanillic type fragrance. A lot of people have said, it's just really synthetic vanilla, but honestly, most vanillas are synthetic. Vanilla is relatively inexpensive as a fragrant note goes. If I sense any kind of synthetic vibe from this, it's really early on, and it dries off. This has got more it's got a nice mixture of dark, fragrant notes that last and last. This is a really great performer. You've got bergamot, jasmine, frankincense, ambroxan, benzoin, woody notes, and of course, vanilla, the primary player in this. So vanilla is recognizable and predominant from top to bottom, but it also is edged and supported by some really very nice, fragrant, masculine notes that you will come to love. It's in the pretty visibly noticeable presentation. Got the Mercedes-Benz logo there. Side of the bottle shows the juice. It's really nice. Form-fitting in the hand. Just be careful though, it doesn't sit up well. I've mentioned that before. It knocks over really easily, so just be careful. This is one I'm gonna spray. Oh, lovely, lovely gourmand fragrance. Gives you a hint of like tobacco too, although there's no tobacco in here. It's just a really nice mix of that benzoin, warm, sweet benzoin with the frankincense, the little darker resinous frankincense that gives you, and combined with vanilla, of course, that gives you that almost tobacco-y sense. Absolutely love it. Unfortunately discontinued, still relatively easy to find. It's another one that I linked in the description below that you can pick up for relatively inexpensive. I highly recommend it. Mercedes-Benz Club Black. Back in 2004, Jean-Michel Lambertier created a Versace fragrance that many people were kind of reticent when it was released. They were thinking, it's just going to be another mall fragrance, and that is Versace Man. Now, it is in the same bottle presentation as Versace Man Eau Fraiche, which is a very youthful oriented fragrance. This one is definitely not for the kids. It is not a mall fragrance. It is a predominantly tobacco-oriented fragrance, and it is amazing. This fragrance is edging niche quality for Versace. To me, it set a precedent for Versace fragrances that are close to niche quality. It's a very solid tobacco fragrance all the way around. Solid smelling, solid performing, and it's one of those that you can wear in pretty much every occasion. It doesn't have necessarily a best utilized at or best maximized at time period or location. It is, to me, super hyper versatile. In the top, you've got bergamot, angelica, neroli, black pepper, cardamom, and saffron comprise the heart notes, with a base of amber, cashmere wood, labdanum, and tobacco leaf. Now that tobacco leaf is a young green leaf, so it gives it this kind of a tobacco, like a green tobacco sensibilities. You know, there's different kind of rich tobacco fragrant notes. This particular one is a youthful tobacco, but the fragrance itself is not a youthful oriented fragrance. It's a very mature. This is a confidence booster. It's for the man that knows what he wants, he knows how to get it, and he's on his way. He's on his way to getting it. Wearing this will definitely boost your confidence and make you feel emboldened to accomplish what you want to accomplish. Excellent, excellent tobacco fragrance. Versace Man. Versace Man. Very hard to find though. As you'll notice, this is actually a tester. If you can see on the very back there, that's actually printed on the bottle, which all testers have the notes printed on the bottle, typically anyway, and it's missing the lid. So unfortunately I don't have a lid for it, but I was very fortunate to get this. They're, again, very hard to find as it's discontinued. Versace Man. Excellent tobacco fragrance. Perfumist Terry Wasser created this next fragrance back in 2015, and it has become a much loved fragrance, and it is from the house of Guerlain. It is L'Homme Ideal Cologne. This is a 50 ml bottle. It's very easy to use this juice. You know how sometimes you'll eat a salad and you'll eat and eat and eat and it's like you didn't put a dent in it? This juice is not like that. It's very easy to use this up. Now, some people confuse the fact that it has the word cologne in the title for this being an eau de cologne. That is not the case. This is an eau de toilette concentration. Top notes of grapefruit, orange, bergamot, almond, and neroli are in the mid, with Indian vetiver and white musk in the base, resting on a base of that. I've described this one as lemonade with an almond heart. I actually borrowed that from somewhere. I read it online, but I thought that was pretty accurate description of the composition of L'Homme Ideal cologne. This is another super versatile fragrance that you can wear for any occasion. However, it is best utilized or maximized in spring weather. It's slightly sweet and might be overbearing or too much in the high heat of summer, and subsequently in the cold, dead cold of winter, it might not hold up. It might die out, bottom might drop out of it. So highly recommend using it in spring. This one is another one that's starting to get a little bit harder to find, and when you do find it, the price is jacked up quite a bit. These fragrances, yes, they're discontinued, but don't pay top dollar for them. You know, don't pay hundreds of dollars for something that you can just hold out. You'll find it, someone will have it, someone will, you know, put it up for sale, or maybe you can get a relatively inexpensive decant of it. You don't necessarily have to own the entire bottle to be able to enjoy a fragrance and use it. I use decants as well quite frequently. This one, however, fantastic spring fragrance, L'Homme Ideal Cologne by Guerlain. Now, my last fragrance in this list of 6 is the one that I mentioned at the outset that I can't find any definitive, pinpoint, accurate statement stating that it has been discontinued. However, my intuition tells me, and everything in terms of searching the interwebs for it has kind of led me to the conclusion that it has been discontinued. Because again, houses and manufacturers keep that information really close to the vest. For whatever reason, they feel like, you know, if people know early on that a fragrance is discontinued, I guess they'll buy them up and then jack the price up later. Some of that still happens regardless, but for whatever reason, Pure Tonka by Thierry Mugler is getting harder and harder to find. Now, I was very fortunate in that this was gifted to me, but if you were to go out and look for it right now, chances are it's going to be really tough to find. However, it made the list because I really, really like Tonka. Is one of those notes that's in a lot of modern men's fragrances, right? So to have a Tonka based fragrance is really a masterstroke in my estimation, and Thierry Mugler did a fantastic job. Mugler, the house Mugler, did a really good job with this fragrance. Pure Tonka came out in 2016. I believe Jacques Huchlier is the master perfumist that created it. Of course, the primary note is Venezuelan tonka bean, but it has a lot of really nice, it's blended with some really nice supportive notes. You've got lavender, rosemary, patchouli, vanilla, and my favorite, cappuccino. So there's a cappuccino or coffee note that blends so well with the tonka bean, because tonka bean is very creamy and sweet, and it's kind of moving towards that sweet coffee vibe anyway, and that cappuccino note just takes it over the edge for me. Super gourmand, very sweet, excellent fragrance, therefore categorizing itself specifically for cooler weather. Great for cooler nights of summer, the cooler mornings of spring, and then of course fall weather and winter weather is a given for a gourmand fragrance like Pure Tonka. Again, I can't find anything stating that Pure Tonka has definitively, you know, been discontinued, but all signs are pointing to that it's discontinued, or if it's not right at this very moment, it very shortly will be. So if you find Pure Tonka anywhere, make sure to grab it up. Well, that's it, guys, for my list of 6 fragrances that are super solid yet have been discontinued. If you find any of these anywhere on the internet, in the notes below, I give a basic description of how I think you should start if you want to look for any of these. And then of course 2 of them I have listed that you can actually purchase. Thanks so much for stopping by and checking out my video today. As always, thank you so much for your support of my channel. I'm Tommy with Studio Sense, and I'll see you next time.